When stars fall silent DR, Elena Torres pressed her face against the cracked viewport of the emergency pod, watching the alien world grow larger as she plummeted toward its frozen surface. The ice planet Kelvara stretched endlessly below her, a world of crystalline mountains and frozen seas that sparkled under the light of twin blue suns. Her research vessel, the UES Pathfinder, had been destroyed 3 hours ago when its quantum drive suffered a catastrophic failure while studying this uncharted system. Elena was a xenobiologist with 15 years of experience exploring the galaxy's most dangerous frontiers. She had survived encounters with hostile alien wildlife, navigated through asteroid fields, and even escaped from the gravity well of a collapsing star. But this time felt different. This time, she was truly alone, with no backup crew and no rescue ships within light years of her position. The emergency pod struck the planet's surface with bone-jarring force, sending up a shower of ice crystals that glittered like diamonds in the alien sunlight. Elena's head snapped forward against the restraints, and she felt warm blood trickling down her forehead. The pod systems flickered and died, leaving her in the eerie silence of an alien world. She checked her environmental suit's readings and felt her heart sink. The radiation from the quantum drive explosion had damaged her suit's life support systems. She had maybe 6 hours of breathable air remaining, and the planet's temperature was dropping rapidly as night approached. Elena forced herself to remain calm. Panic was a luxury she couldn't afford. She activated the pod's emergency beacon, knowing it was futile. The nearest human colony was 43 light-years away, and her beacon's range was limited to a few 100,000 kilometers. Still, she had to try. She gathered the pod's emergency supplies and stepped out onto the frozen wasteland, her boots crunching through the crystalline snow. The landscape around her was breathtaking in its stark beauty. Towering spires of natural crystal formations reached toward the sky like frozen lightning, and the ground sparkled with veins of some unknown mineral that pulsed with faint inner light. Despite her desperate situation, Elena couldn't help but appreciate the alien majesty of this world. If she was going to die here, at least it would be in a place of incredible beauty. As she trudged through the snow, searching for shelter, Elena began to feel the effects of radiation poisoning. Her vision blurred occasionally, and waves of nausea swept over her. The quantum drive explosion had exposed her to more radiation than her suit could filter out. Even if she found shelter and warmth, the radiation would kill her within days. She was a dead woman walking, leaving tracks in alien snow. Hours passed as Elena struggled across the frozen landscape. Her suit's heating system was failing, and she could feel the bitter cold seeping through the protective layers. Her breath came in ragged gasps as the oxygen recycler began to malfunction. She had perhaps 1 hour of air remaining when she saw them. First, she thought the radiation poisoning was causing hallucinations. Beings of living crystal emerged from the frozen ground like flowers blooming in fast motion. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, their bodies composed of what appeared to be translucent blue-white crystal that pulsed with gentle internal light. Their faces were angular and geometric, yet somehow conveyed a sense of ancient wisdom and profound sadness. Elena had never seen anything like them in all her years of xenobiological research. The crystalline beings approached her slowly, their movements creating a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Elena tried to speak, but her throat was too dry and her oxygen too limited. One of the beings, taller than the others and with more complex geometric patterns in its crystal structure, extended what might have been a hand toward her. When it touched her suit, Elena felt a warm, tingling sensation that seemed to penetrate her very bones. The being spoke, though not with words. Instead, images and emotions flowed directly into Elena's mind. She saw flashes of their civilization spanning millions of years. These were the Valix, an ancient race that had achieved harmony with their crystalline world long before humans had even developed agriculture. They were peaceful beings who had sworn never to interfere with the natural development of younger species, observing the galaxy from their hidden sanctuaries, but they could not watch her die. Elena lost consciousness as the radiation poisoning overwhelmed her failing body. When she awakened, she found herself lying in a chamber carved from living crystal surrounded by the gentle light of the Valix. The radiation burns on her skin had healed, leaving only faint silver scars. Her lungs no longer burned with each breath, and the crushing fatigue of radiation. Sickness had lifted. She was alive, impossibly and completely alive. The tall Valix being she had first encountered approached a resting place. Through their telepathic connection, it introduced itself as Resonance of Ancient Songs, a name that conveyed the harmony of crystal formations singing in the planet's eternal winds. Elena learned that the Valix possessed healing crystals that could repair almost any form of biological damage, even radiation poisoning that would have been fatal by human medical standards. During the weeks of her recovery, Elena lived among the Valix and learned about their extraordinary civilization. They had evolved from silicon-based organisms that had merged with the crystalline formations of their world millions of years ago. Their entire society was built around the concept of harmonic resonance, where individuals contributed their unique frequencies to create a greater symphonic whole. They had no concept of war or violence, having transcended such primitive impulses eons before humanity had even discovered fire. The Valix showed Elena wonders beyond human imagination. Cities that grew from the planet's crystal formations like living organisms, libraries of knowledge stored in crystalline matrices that could preserve information for millions of years, and art forms that used light and sound to create experiences that touched the very soul. They had achieved a level of technological and spiritual advancement that made human civilization seem like children playing with toys. But Elena also sensed a deep sadness among the Valix. Through her growing telepathic connection with them, she learned of a growing threat to their peaceful existence. The Kronar Empire, an aggressive civilization of machine-augmented beings, was expanding across this region of the galaxy. The Kronar consumed entire worlds to fuel their endless expansion, stripping planets of all resources and leaving behind lifeless husks. They had already destroyed 17 civilizations in this sector, and intelligence indicated they were moving toward Valix space. The Valix faced an impossible choice. Their peaceful philosophy prohibited them from developing weapons or engaging in warfare, even to defend themselves. They could flee their homeworld and become refugees among the stars, abandoning millions of years of accumulated knowledge and culture. Or they could remain and face extinction when the Kronar arrived. Neither option offered hope for their continued existence as a species. Elena spent countless hours in deep discussion with Resonance of Ancient Songs and other Valix elders. She tried to convince them to develop defensive capabilities or seek allies among the galaxy's military powers. But the Valix remained committed to their path of absolute pacifism, even in the face of their own destruction. They had seen too many civilizations corrupt themselves through violence, and they would rather cease to exist than compromise their fundamental principles. As her recovery neared completion, Elena felt a profound sense of debt to these remarkable beings. They had saved her life when they had no obligation to do so, risking exposure of their hidden civilization to help a single member of a species they barely knew. The Valix asked nothing in return except that she remember their kindness and carry their story to the stars. That on the day of her departure, the Valix presented Elena with a small crystal resonator, a device that would allow her to communicate across vast distances if she ever needed to contact them. Resonance of Ancient Songs touched her mind one final time, sharing a profound moment of gratitude and hope. The ancient being expressed wonder at humanity's potential, seeing in Elena's species a unique combination of curiosity, adaptability, and compassion that might one day help bridge the gaps between different forms of life. Elena's rescue by a human patrol ship 3 days later felt almost anticlimactic after her extraordinary experience with the Valix. As her ship jumped into hyperspace, carrying her back toward human civilization, she clutched the crystal resonator and made a silent promise. If the Valix ever needed help, if their peaceful world ever faced the threat they feared, she would find a way to repay their kindness. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, filled with predators and empires that sought to dominate the weak. But it was also a place where unexpected kindness could bloom between strangers, where ancient wisdom could reach across species barriers, and where a single act of compassion could plant seeds that might one day grow into something magnificent. Elena had been saved by beings who embodied the highest ideals of civilization, and she was determined to ensure that their light would never be extinguished from the cosmos. 25 years would pass before that promise would be tested. But Elena never forgot the crystalline world where she had died and been reborn, or the gentle beings who had taught her that true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the courage to preserve what was beautiful and precious in an often hostile universe. Echoes across the void, director Elena Torres stood at the observation deck of Luna Station, gazing out at the blue marble of Earth as it turned slowly in the void. 25 years had passed since her rescue on Kelvara, and those years had transformed her from a young xenobiologist into one of humanity's most respected experts on alien civilizations. As Director of Xenological Affairs for the Human Colonial Union, she oversaw first contact protocols, trade negotiations, and diplomatic relations with the 17 alien species that humanity had encountered during its expansion across the galaxy. The Human Colonial Union had grown tremendously during Elena's career. What had started as a handful of struggling colonies beyond the Sol system had evolved into a significant interstellar power controlling 43 star systems and supporting a population of nearly 8 billion humans spread across dozens of worlds. Earth's children had proven remarkably adaptable to life among the stars, establishing thriving colonies on worlds that ranged from desert planets to ocean worlds to the massive space habitats that orbited gas giants. Elena's office walls were covered with holographic displays showing the current status of human exploration and expansion. New colonies were being established monthly, and the Colonial Survey Service was charting new star systems at an unprecedented rate. Humanity's reputation among galactic civilizations was generally positive. They were seen as energetic newcomers with a talent for engineering and a refreshing lack of interest in conquering their neighbors. Most alien species viewed humans as useful trading partners and potential allies, though some more established powers remained suspicious of humanity's rapid growth and technological advancement. The crystal resonator from Kelvara sat on Elena's desk in a place of honor, its surface occasionally flickering with faint internal light. In all the years since her rescue, she had never received a communication through the device. She had begun to wonder if she ever would, or if the Valix had simply forgotten the human they had once saved. Sometimes she questioned whether her memories of that time were entirely accurate, whether the trauma and radiation poisoning might have distorted her recollections of those remarkable crystalline beings. Those doubts were shattered when the resonator suddenly blazed with brilliant light during what should have been a routine morning briefing. The device rose from Elena's desk, hovering in the air as it projected a three-dimensional image of resonance of ancient songs. The ancient Valix looked exactly as Elena remembered, though his crystalline form seemed somehow dimmer, as if the internal light that gave him life was slowly fading. Elena Torres of the humans, the familiar telepathic voice filled her mind with the same gentle harmonics she remembered from Kelvara. We hoped never to burden you with our troubles, but the time of reckoning has come. The Kronar Empire has reached our borders. Their war fleet surrounds our homeworld, and our people face extinction within days. We have nowhere else to turn. The image showed Elena the current situation around Kelvara. Massive Kronar dreadnoughts, each one larger than Human City, had formed a blockade around the crystal world. The ships were ugly things, all sharp angles and weapon arrays, their hulls covered in the mechanical augmentations that the Kronar used to enhance their already formidable natural capabilities. Intelligence estimates suggested the blockading force included over 300 capital ships and nearly 1,000 support vessels. We understand that our request may seem impossible. Resonance of ancient songs continued. The Kronar Empire is one of the galaxy's most powerful military forces. They have conquered dozens of civilizations and absorbed their technologies and populations into their collective consciousness. We do not ask this lightly, but you are the only species we trust to honor the bonds of friendship over political calculation. Elena stared at the tactical display showing the overwhelming Kronar forces. Humanity's entire battle fleet consisted of maybe 60 capital ships and a few hundred support vessels. The human military was well trained and equipped with cutting-edge technology, but they had never faced a threat on this scale. Every strategic calculation suggested that any attempt to challenge the Kronar blockade would result in the complete destruction of the human fleet. But as Elena looked at the image of resonance of ancient songs, she remembered the warmth of the healing crystals that had saved her life, the patience with which the Valix had nursed her back to health, and the profound wisdom they had shared during her recovery. These beings had risked everything to save one human life when they had no obligation to do so. How could humanity do less when faced with their extinction? Elena immediately called an emergency session of the Human High Council, the governing body that oversaw the colonial union's major policy decisions. The council chamber on Luna Station, filled with the holographic projections of humanity's leaders, representatives from every major colony, and Earth's continental governments. Elena presented the Valix request with all the passion and conviction she could muster, emphasizing the debt humanity owed to these remarkable beings. The response was predictably mixed. Admiral Marcus Webb, the gruff commander of the Colonial Defense Force, expressed serious concerns about committing humanity's entire military strength to what appeared to be a hopeless cause. Director Torres, I understand the emotional appeal of this request, Webb said, his weathered face showing the strain of years spent defending human colonies from pirates and hostile aliens. But we're talking about facing the Kronar Empire with a force one-fifth their size. It would be suicide for our people and wouldn't save the Valix. Chancellor Sarah Chun, Earth's representative to the Council, raised economic concerns. The cost of mobilizing our entire battle fleet would be enormous, and the potential consequences of defeat could leave humanity vulnerable to other threats. We have our own people to protect, our own colonies that depend on our defensive capabilities. But other voices spoke in favor of action. Senator Marcus Rodriguez from the Centauri colonies had fought alongside alien allies during the Rigel sector conflicts and understood the importance of honoring commitments to friendly species. The Valix saved Director Torres when they had no reason to help humanity. If we abandon them now, what does that say about our character as a species? What kind of reputation will we build among the galactic community? Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the director of xenological research, supported Elena's position with scientific arguments. The Valix possess knowledge and technologies that could benefit all sentient life. Their crystalline archives contain millions of years of accumulated wisdom about physics, biology, and consciousness itself. If we allow this knowledge to be destroyed, the galaxy will be immeasurably poorer. The debate continued for hours with passionate arguments on both sides. Elena found herself thinking about the principles that had guided human expansion among the stars. Humanity had built its interstellar civilization on the foundation of helping those in need, welcoming refugees from failed colonies, and standing up for the underdog against oppressive forces. The Valix situation was a test of whether those principles were genuine or merely convenient rhetoric when the stakes were low. Finally, Elena was given the opportunity to make her final appeal to the Council. She stood before the assembled leaders of humanity, thinking about all the species she had encountered during her career. Some had been hostile, others indifferent, but the Valix were the only ones who had shown her true compassion without expecting anything in return. 25 years ago, I was dying alone on a frozen world 43 light-years from the nearest human settlement. Elena began, her voice steady despite the emotional weight of her words. The Valix had no obligation to save me. They could have left me to die and continued their policy of non-interference with younger species. Instead, they risked exposing their hidden civilization to nurse me back to health using their most precious healing crystals. She paused, looking around the chamber, at faces representing billions of humans across dozens of worlds. They asked nothing in return except that I remember their kindness. Today, they face extinction at the hands of an empire that sees them as nothing more than resources to be consumed. We may be outgunned and outmatched, but we are not without advantages. Human tactical innovation and adaptability have won battles against superior forces before. Elena gestured toward the tactical displays showing human military assets. More importantly, this is about who we choose to be as a species. Do we stand by our friends when they need us most? Or do we abandon them the moment helping becomes inconvenient? The galaxy is watching our response to this crisis. Our decision will define humanity's reputation among the stars for generations to come. The vote was closer than Elena had hoped, but decisive nonetheless. By a margin of 7 votes, the Human High Council authorized Operation Beacon's call, the largest military mobilization in human history. Admiral Webb was given command of the combined fleet, with orders to proceed to Valix space and render all possible assistance to the crystalline beings who had once saved a human life. As news of the decision spread across human space, the response was overwhelming. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers faster than they could be processed. Civilian shipyards worked around the clock to convert cargo vessels into auxiliary warships. Research facilities shared their most advanced experimental technologies, rushing projects that had been in development for years. Elena found herself appointed as special envoy for alien relations, responsible for coordinating with the Valix and maintaining communication with other galactic powers during the crisis. As she prepared for the journey to Kelvara, she carried with her the hopes and fears of 8 billion humans who had chosen to risk everything for beings they had never met, but whose cause had touched their hearts. The Human Colonial Union was about to test its principles against overwhelming odds, and Elena knew that the outcome would echo across the galaxy for centuries to come. Humanity was answering the call of friendship, and the stars themselves would bear witness to what happened when Earth's children chose honor over safety. When humanity answers, the combined human fleet that assembled at the Prometheus staging area was the largest military force in humanity's brief interstellar history. Admiral Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UCS Defiance, watching as ships from every corner of human space took their positions in the vast formation. 62 capital ships formed a battle line, supported by over 300 escort vessels, supply ships, and the converted civilian craft that carried humanity's secret weapons. Webb was a career military officer who had spent 30 years defending human colonies from pirates, raiders, and hostile alien forces. He had never imagined commanding a fleet this size or facing odds this overwhelming. The tactical computers had run probability simulations thousands of times, and every scenario ended the same way. The human fleet would be destroyed within hours of engaging the Kronar blockade. But sometimes, Webb reflected, the point wasn't to win according to conventional measures. Sometimes the point was to show the galaxy what you stood for. Director Elena Torres stood beside Webb in the flagship's command center, her diplomatic credentials giving her access to the highest levels of military planning. She had been instrumental in developing the fleet's unconventional strategy, drawing on her knowledge of both Valix and Kronar capabilities to identify potential weaknesses in the enemy's overwhelming advantage. Admiral, we're receiving the final tactical updates from our intelligence networks, reported Commander Sarah Park, the fleet's chief intelligence officer. The Kronar blockade consists of exactly 317 capital ships, including 12 planet-killer dreadnoughts. They've positioned themselves in a perfect sphere around Kelvara, with overlapping fields of fire that make any conventional assault impossible. Webb studied the holographic display showing the enemy positions. The Kronar were methodical in their approach to warfare, using overwhelming force applied with mathematical precision. Their ships were technological marvels, incorporating technologies stolen from dozens of conquered civilizations. Each vessel was crewed by machine-augmented beings whose biological components had been replaced with cybernetic systems designed for optimal combat efficiency. What about the Valix themselves? Elena asked, have we established communication with the surface? Commander Park nodded grimly. Resonance of Ancient Songs has confirmed that most of the Valix population has retreated to the crystal caverns deep underground. The Kronar have been conducting systematic bombardment of surface installations, but they haven't attempted a ground invasion yet. intelligence suggests they're planning to crack the planet's crust and harvest the crystalline formations for their technology. Elena felt a chill at the thought of Kelvara's beautiful crystal formations being strip-mined by the Kronar Empire. The Valix civilization was inseparably connected to their crystalline world. Destroying the planet would mean genocide for a species that had existed peacefully for millions of years. Status on Project Lighthouse? Webb asked, referring to humanity's desperate gambit for evening the odds against the Kronar fleet, the Doctor. Yuki Tanaka, the fleet's chief science officer, activated a secure holographic display. All civilian cargo vessels have been equipped with quantum disruption mines, Admiral. We've managed to produce nearly 2,000 units using every manufacturing facility in human space. The mines are designed to destabilize the quantum fields that power Kronar ships, effectively turning their own advanced technology against them. The quantum disruption mines were humanity's answer to superior Kronar technology. Rather than trying to match the enemy's firepower, human scientists had. Blockade area, the converted cargo ships began deploying their quantum disruption mines. The devices were small enough to escape immediate detection, drifting silently through space until they reached optimal positions around the Kronar vessels. The mines activated simultaneously, creating cascading quantum failures throughout the Kronar blockade. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before found their power systems failing as quantum disruption waves propagated through their advanced technology. The larger vessels attempted to adapt, but the mines had been specifically designed to exploit the quantum dependencies that made Kronar technology so powerful. All ships execute attack pattern defiance. Admiral Webb commanded, and the human fleet burst into action with devastating coordination. The battle that followed was unlike any engagement in recorded galactic history. Human ships darted between disabled Kronar vessels like wolves attacking a wounded giant, using their superior maneuverability to avoid return fire while targeting critical systems with precision weapons. The quantum mines continued their destructive work, creating expanding fields of technological failure that crippled ship after ship. But the Kronar Empire had not conquered dozens of civilizations without learning to adapt to unexpected tactics. Within hours, their remaining vessels had developed countermeasures against the quantum disruption effect. The battle became a desperate struggle between human innovation and Kronar adaptation, with both sides taking devastating losses. Elena found herself coordinating the evacuation of Valix refugees while the battle raged overhead. Using the Defiance's shuttles and cargo bays, human rescue teams worked frantically to extract as many crystalline beings as possible from the planet's surface. The Valix, despite their peaceful nature, showed remarkable courage in helping their own people reach the evacuation points. The turning point came when Admiral Webb made the ultimate sacrifice. With his flagship severely damaged and the Kronar fleet beginning to overwhelm the human formation, he ordered the Defiance on a collision course with the largest Kronar dreadnought. The impact destroyed both vessels in a spectacular explosion that created a gap in the enemy formation. All ships, this is Commander Park assuming fleet command, came the voice of Webb's second-in-command. The Admiral has opened our path home. All vessels with Valix refugees jump to hyperspace immediately. Combat vessels provide covering fire and prepare for withdrawal. The human fleet's withdrawal was a masterpiece of tactical coordination under impossible circumstances. Despite suffering over 60% casualties, they had successfully extracted nearly half of the Valix population and dealt devastating damage to the Kronar blockade. More importantly, they had shown the galaxy that humanity would honor its commitments regardless of the cost. Elena stood in the refugee bay of the escaped ship, surrounded by hundreds of Valix survivors whose crystalline forms pulsed with gratitude and sorrow. Resonance of ancient songs approached her, his mental voice filled with profound emotion. Elena Torres of the humans, your species has proven that honor still exists among the stars. Though we have lost our homeworld, the Valix will survive because of humanity's sacrifice. We pledge ourselves as eternal allies to your people. 6 months later, Elena stood before the Galactic Council as humanity's representative, delivering her report on the Kelvara operation. The council chamber, filled with representatives from 47 different species, listened in silence as she described humanity's decision to honor its debt to the Valix. The Battle of Kelvara has established humanity as a major galactic power, Elena concluded, but more importantly, it has demonstrated our commitment to protecting peaceful civilizations from aggressive empires. We propose the establishment of the Beacon Protocol, a mutual defense agreement that ensures no peaceful species will face extinction alone. The response was overwhelming. Within a year, 23 species had signed the Beacon Protocol, creating the largest defensive alliance in galactic history. The Kronar Empire, severely weakened by their losses at Kelvara, found themselves facing rebellions on dozens of worlds as subjugated species rose up with human support. Elena's promise to the Valix had grown into something far greater than either of them had imagined. Humanity had answered the call of friendship, and in doing so had helped create a galaxy where kindness was protected by strength, where the innocent could find refuge among the stars, and where no civilization would ever again face extinction alone. The crystal resonator still sat on Elena's desk, but now it was joined by communication devices from dozens of other species. Humanity had become the beacon of hope for peaceful civilizations across the galaxy, and Elena knew that the light of that beacon would burn for generations to come. In the end, a single act of kindness had transformed the destiny of multiple species. The Valix had saved one human life, and humanity had answered by saving an entire civilization. The debt had been repaid, but the friendship would endure forever among the stars.